joining me. The name of today's painting is Pot O' Gold. You'll see why we've named it that in just a few minutes. We have a lot to do and we've got a sort of a limited time to do it in, so let's go right onto the palette and get started. Okay, first thing we're going to do, put out a puddle of white paint. We're going to make another puddle of ebony black. Going to make a mixture of these, ebony black and dark chocolate. Okay, now another of dark chocolate and antique gold. And we're going to cover the whole background with these mixtures. So now we'll go to the canvas. We're going to be painting this whole background with these, let's see, 4 colors. Well, 3 colors in white. So let's just wet the background a little bit, dampen it, and then we'll get started. Now this is just plain water, nothing fancy that I'm using here, just plain water, and I'm using the fan brush. And the only reason I'm using that is because it was handy. You could use any large brush that you wanted to. The reason I'm dampening the canvas is I want these colors to blend. I want the edges to blend a little bit. So, in order to increase my drying time, increase my time before the paint dries and closes, I'm wetting the canvas to give me more working time. Now, if you're working at home, you won't have to do this. You could work in one area at a time, but my time's sort of limited, so I'm having to cut a few corners. However, if I were working at home, I would wet this whole entire top area. I probably wouldn't wet this area right through here. This is going to be a doily later on, a lace doily. You're just going to love it. Okay, now I'm brush mixing. It's going to be a nasty looking mixture. The black and the dark chocolate. And the reason I'm brush mixing is so that I get a little bit, keep it from looking too samey. Let's get a little bit more dark chocolate. Keep the mixture from looking what we call too samey, too much alike, no variety. Now, since in working in acrylics, the easy way to do this would have been to paint your background first. Let it dry. Then take your pattern and sketch it over your dry background. But if I had done that, you wouldn't have seen how to lay it in, would you? All right, now this little area that I'm skipping, that's where flowers are going to go later. This area in here is going to be folded, so I might as well paint over that. Just kind of give it a kind of a slap-happy coat so that when I'm laying the greenery in, I don't have to work so hard to get it in there. Okay, now as we're moving across, I'm going to skim back over these flowers to soften the edges just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to the antique gold. Notice I didn't wash the brush, did I? Antique gold and dark chocolate. And I want these edges to mix together. And see, my paint is so workable. See, it's just blending one right into the other. Little bit of white in that mixture now to go a little bit brighter. Okay, right on down. This is the dark side. Our light is coming from the left. Now, if I want to do any blending here, I will surely need to wait and let this paint dry just a little bit. Now, I bet you can't imagine that with acrylics because they dry so rapidly, having to actually wait on drying time. But in this case, we would. Now, I'm adding white to the ebony black and dark chocolate mixture. And I'm going to start working in the doily area now. And I'm still working with the fan brush, and when you're working at home, if you want to select your own brushes, that's perfectly all right. Just use the brush that's comfortable for you. Want to blend this edge a little bit. Blend this edge a little bit. Okay, and I'm going a little bit lighter because I want to add some lace in this area right through here later. A little bit more white to that same mixture. Okay, this is going to be the table area here, and I want to go a little bit darker, so I'm dipping back into the dark mixture again. Putting a shadow under the lace. And I'm not going to leave this painting in this mess, I promise you. We got a lot of pretty stuff to do to it. I'm going to do a little bit of blending. I'm going to lay that aside and then get my mop brush and soften out some of these edges. This is still a little bit too wet up in here, but I can work in this area right now. And blend here a little bit. You're just going to love working with these liquid acrylics. They all kind of advantages to them. They dry fast. They're easy to work with. They're fun to work with. And they're non-toxic. Won't hurt if you get it on your hands and then get it in your mouth. I wouldn't advise you to do that, but if you do, it won't hurt you. Okay, let's do a little bit of touch-up down in here too. Preparing for the beautiful work we're going to do on this doily in a few minutes. Laying in a little shadow here, that's to separate the lacy part from the white part. And trusty little mop and blend. Blend those edges down just a little bit. Now, I bet you think in laying in a doily you'd put in the dark first and then the light, but I'm actually reversing that on this because I found that it works better. I'm still going to let that dry a little bit. It's got a good shine to it, and that tells me that it's still real, real wet. So I'm going to start working on the pot. I'm going to use Antique Gold. Little bit of dark chocolate. Thin that paint with water just a little bit. Oh, get it straight, Norma, get it round. Now, I know about how much drying time that I have, but if you were working at home and you weren't sure, the best idea for you would have been to let this underpainting for the doily dry, wet the pot with water, and then lay these colors in. But because I use them so much, I know about how much time I have to do each little thing. And I take a lot of little shortcuts that if I were new to liquid acrylics, I would have a little bit of drying time between some of these steps. Okay, in the center section, let's go with cad yellow, a little bit of white. Now look at that. Isn't that pretty? You know it is. You know it is. Okay, now, common sense tells us that if we have foliage, we're going to have a shadow on the pot. So I'm going to go ahead and add that shadow right now. While I'm working with this color. And then I'm going to take that trusty little mop again, and here it is, and soften the shadow. Now that's going to be a shadow from foliage. Okay, let's see. Can we do it now? Can we do it now? I think we can. If you don't care for the brush strokes, I sort of like them, but a lot of people like a smooth background. You can take either your fan brush or your mop and kind of blend them away. Very gently, though. You don't want to lose the variety that you've created, taken so much pains to create back in there. Alrighty. That pot could stand a little bit more of a shadow. And I can tell it's a little bit out of round, but I'm not going to take time to piddle around with that because you can straighten that up. What I really want to do is just show you how to get the painting done. As far as the roundness of the pot and things like that, you can handle that yourself. I'm going to start laying some flowers in there, and for that I'm going to use Boysenberry and dark chocolate. Boysenberry being one of my very favorite colors. I just love it. I have a little dark chocolate right there. I'll just kind of pick it up and use it. Okay. Now this dark background is going to help me establish these flowers. It's going to work sort of as an underpainting for me. Now I'm using the Filbert for this one. Petal here and a petal there. Let's put one right out in here, and we'll kind of hide it behind some foliage later on. Because remember, we haven't laid our foliage in yet. Full face goes right here. Dark chocolate and boysenberry. And I know it's dark, but it's necessary to get your values established. And I'm just going to kind of skip and jump all over this arrangement for a few minutes. Okay, let's hide a little. Let's see, let's put one. Let's enlarge that one a little bit. Now you can either go by the design that I have that comes with this, that's in the, you know, if you order the book or the tape or whatever, there's a design that comes with it, or make up your own arrangement. Suit yourself. Okay, if you're making up your own, what you want to do is you do not want to get it squatty. You do not want to get it square. But I'm kind of following the pattern that I had laid down. Okay, now those need to dry just a little bit. Let me see if it's, yeah, it's pretty good. Put one right here to kind of pull it. Started to tilt over. I'll put a little bud there to pull it back over. Midnight green and antique gold for the foliage. And see, now I don't have to work myself to death on this foliage because I already have this dark background behind it. Just kind of plop it in here and there. because I plotted and I planned ahead of time. Because you'd have to add a little more yellow, cad yellow, or some kind of lightening agent over in your lighter areas. I'm going to be kind of jumping and skipping for a few minutes because we've got to nestle these flowers down just a little bit. They must be nestled. And I'm using a 1/2-inch Crooker for this. It's one of my favorite brushes. Okay, too much light showing in there. Let's darken it just a little bit behind these flowers. Let's put a little cast shadow behind them, and that pushes them forward. See how this cast shadow pushes those flowers forward? You know you do. Now, you wouldn't put a cast shadow behind each flower, though, because you really don't need it. But you're going to have to pick some here and there to darken. Now, let's go with a little bit of light. Let's go with cad yellow for this. A little bit of light in this foliage now. Cad yellow and a little bit of white. Getting pretty dry down there. This is something you just have to do, is get your shadows and your lights and your darks established. Just come on down and make some. Give it a little bit of interest here and there. All right, let's get the centers in the flowers with dark chocolate. Some of them will need a little touch of ebony black. They are going to need a touch of yellow. I'm going to go to a smaller brush for that. They are going to need a touch of Calico red. That red just really kind of pulls them to life. Now, we're still going to highlight them, though, so don't think you got a finished flower yet, because far from it. Far from it. I'm going to put a touch of Boysenberry on the... I'm going to use control medium in Boysenberry and brighten up the pot just a little bit. Control medium kind of stretches your paint out a little bit. This pot would really have all of the colors that are in the painting because it is a metal pot, and it would pick those colors up. Now let's get our highlight right through here and make it shine. Make it talk to us. Now bright white on top of that. A little reflected light over in here. Okay, now I'm going to start laying in the doily. And then we're going to go back and finish the flowers. This is what I use for the doily. It's just one that I bought at a department store. And I've torn it in little pieces. And I'm going to use a stiff brush. You could use a stencil brush. Now you need to be ever so careful here, because if this area is still too wet, what's going to happen? It's going to bleed all over the place on you. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Now I'm going to lay that one aside. Ordinarily, I just keep going with that one, but sometimes when I start trying to show off, things happen that shouldn't. I will trust it here, though. Isn't that just great? Just like a stroke of magic. Okay, Norma, don't get carried away. I've got plenty. Won't you use another? Now you see what I've done? I've torn these in little strips because they're easier to handle. They're a lot easier to handle. If I had tried to use that big round business, I'm afraid we'd have had a problem. Let's get a clean one. Now from this tape, if you don't learn to do anything else, this is worth the time that I had to show you. Just this little feat. And sometimes I do this painting, great big painting, 30 by 40. And you're talking about a masterpiece. With that dark background and that shiny pot. All right, now what I want to do is just kind of blend this edge away over here into the shadows. Make it kind of messy looking over in here. Put a little bit of a shadow here. This side's sort of blended for me. I don't have to spend too much time on it. I want to get a few little highlights on these flowers and show you how to do it. But I cannot leave this alone. It's just too pretty. But I fear I'm going to have to because I have other things I must do. Okay, let's go back to the our highlights now. Yellow and Boysenberry and white. Yellow Boysenberry and white. Our light area is this way. Our light is coming from the left. So what I'm doing is catching the petals that would be catching the light. And that's really the petals that are where? This way. Light's coming from that direction. Yellow, Boysenberry, white. Let's do some with yellow, Calico red. Now you're talking about a sight. Isn't that pretty? A little bit bright. Let's put a little white in that. Now this is a pot of gold, isn't it? Nothing but just a pot of gold. And just catch the ones now that are catching the light. These over in here. Down in here would be in the shadow, so you wouldn't want to pull this highlight all the way into the middle of your flower. Let's tip these. Just the tips. Okay. Let's see if we can increase this shadow under here just a little bit. And highlight this. Give this a little light right through there. this area right over in here is sort of messy looking, but now when you do this, what you need to do is to take your time to do your blending. It was more important for me to take that time to show you how to finish your painting than to really get a perfected look, of which I do wish I had time to do, but it's more important to show you how to do it, I think, than to show you whether I can do it so hot looking or not. Okay, I think that's about it for today. I certainly have enjoyed being with you. Thank you.